In the small village of Ekechi, nestled between green hills and thick forests, there was a particular belief that has stood the test of time. For as long as anyone could remember, the color red was considered a bad omen. It was said to be the color of bad fortune, disaster, and pain. Villagers avoided anything red as if their lives depended on it. Even the flowers that blossomed in red were quickly plucked and burned. No one questioned this superstition. It was just how things were. In this village lived a brave young girl named Otunwa. She was known for her kind heart and strong will. Unlike most girls her age, Otunwa wasn't afraid to ask questions or stand out. She always believed that people should be judged by their actions, not by what they wore or looked like. Otunwa's parents, though they loved her deeply, often worried about her bold nature. "You must be careful, Otunwa," her mother often warned. "It's dangerous to go against what everyone believes." But Otunwa would only smile and say, "Mama, how can we know if something is true if we never question it?" As Otunwa grew older, her determination became even stronger. She watched as her friends and families lived in fear of wearing red, all because of a tradition that no one could truly explain. And the more she thought about it, the more ridiculous it seems to her. Why should a color have such power over people's lives? One fateful day, Otunwa made up her mind. She was going to prove that it wasn't the color red that brought bad fortune, but people's fear of it. And so, she decided to do the unthinkable. She would wear a red dress in public. Otunwa's mother became surprised when she saw her daughter holding the dress. It was bright, beautiful, and as red as the sunset. "Otunwa, you have lost your mind," she cried, her voice trembling. "You know what they say about red? People will shun you, and worse, the gods may bring disaster upon you." But Otunwa stood firm. "Mama, it is just a color. What can it do to me? I don't believe that red has the power to control my life." With a heavy heart, her mother shook her head, knowing there was little she could do to change her daughter's mind. "Then maybe the gods protect you, my child," she whispered. The next morning, Otunwa stepped out of her house wearing the red dress. As she walked through the village, heads turned and whispered followed her like a shadow. People pointed and gasped, their faces filled with horror and disbelief. Some mothers quickly ushered their children away, as if merely looking at Otunwa would bring them bad luck. One man shouted, "She will bring disaster upon us," another woman cried. But Otunwa held her head high, ignoring the murmurs. She walked with confidence, knowing that this was more than just a dress. It was a stand against the fear that had held her village captive for generations. Days passed, and despite the villagers' predictions, no disaster came. The sun still rose every morning, and the rain still came to water their crops. Life went on. But Otunwa's life became more difficult. People refused to speak to her. Her friends abandoned her, and shopkeepers turned her away. Otunwa became an artist, all because of the red dress she wore. But still, she refused to give up. "I will prove them wrong," she told herself every night. Though deep inside, the loneliness was starting to weigh on her heart. Her family, too, felt the consequences of her choice. Her father lost customers at his shop, and her mother was no longer invited to community gardens. Yet they stood by Otunwa, knowing how much her mission meant to her. One day, a terrible storm hit the village. The wind howled through the trees, and the rain poured down like never before. The river that ran through Ekeche began to swell, threatening to flood the entire village. People panicked, running to higher ground and desperately trying to save their homes. Otunwa watched as chores unfolded around her. She knew this was her moment to prove that bad fortune had nothing to do with her red dress. She quickly put on her boots and ran out into the storm. determined to help however she could. She saw that the river bank was about to collapse, which would send a rush of water into the village. Without a second thought, Otunwa grabbed a shovel and began digging trenches to divide the water away from the houses. At first, no one helped her, afraid that her red dress had somehow caused the storm. But as the rain continued to pour and the danger grew worse, a few brave villagers joined her. Working together, they managed to save the village from flooding. The storm eventually passed, and the villagers gathered to see the damage. They were amazed to see that, despite everything, Otunwa's home and the homes of those who had helped her were untouched. It was as if her bravery had protected them, not the color of her dress. For the first time, the villagers began to question their long-held beliefs. Could it really be that red wasn't the cause of bad fortune? Could it be that they had been wrong all along? Slowly, people started to approach Otunwa, taking her for her courage during the storm. They began to realize that it wasn't the color of her dress that mattered, but the strength of her character. Weeks passed, and the villagers returned to its normal life. But something had changed. People no longer feared the color red. Some even began to wear red scarves or hats, inspired by Otunwa's bravery. The elders of the village, who had been the strongest believers in the superstition, admitted that they had been wrong. One evening, the village held a gathering to honor Otunwa. The village chief, an old man named Nkem, stood before the crowd and spoke. Otunwa has shown us that it is not the color of a dress or any superstition that shapes our destiny. It is our courage, our kindness, and our willingness to stand up for what is right. We have been living in fear of a color, but fear has no power when we face it with strength and wisdom. The villagers cheered, and Otunwa, standing at the center of the crowd in her red dress, felt a sense of peace wash over her. She had faced ridicule, loneliness, and rejection, but in the end, she had proven that it was not the dress, but her character that mattered. That night, as the stars twinkled above Ekechi, Otunwa's mother hugged her tightly. "You were right, my brave girl," she whispered. "I am proud of you." Otunwa smiled, her heart full of warmth and love. She knew that the journey had been difficult, but it had been worth it. Moral lesson: Otunwa's story teaches us that superstitions and outdated beliefs often limit our potential and cause unnecessary fear. True strength and character are not defined by the colors we wear or the traditions we follow, but by our actions and our willingness to challenge unjust norms. Courage and integrity come from within, and it is our decisions and bravery that shape our destiny, not the arbitrary fears imposed by society. The end. Thank you everyone for watching my story, and please come back for more stories. I love you.